All right, Mr. David WREN, I want to turn it over to you, sir. You called me the other day. You said, we really got to make sure we're educating our people and our communities to understand why they need to be saving gold. And so, in layman's terms, because there's some people who are savvy on this phone, there's some people who this is totally new to them. I will say this just as a little background. In 1973, President Nixon signed a bill to basically say that our money would no longer be backed by gold or silver. So as a result, we've had a serious declining dollar. And I think that there are tons of financial experts saying now that if nothing else, you need to become a gold millionaire. Because you may be a millionaire, but if it's all paper currency, that's still a big threat concept about what's going on with the dollar and why people need to be saving gold.
Yes, definitely. Can you hear me, Dr. Jill? Hello?
Yes, loud and clear. I muted out. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'm sorry because I was traveling also, but I'm driving. So I just want to thank you so much, Dr. TANKARD, for inviting me on to your conference call with your members. And I take it a great pleasure and say, just want to say Happy New Year to everyone else and get ready for 2015. You should view 2015 as a accumulation year, and you should be trying to accumulate as much precious metals and as much assets as you possibly can. As Dr. TANKARD was saying, with Nixon in 1973, August 15th, when he took the United States off of the gold standard, what Nixon really did was he took the United States, was a default, and he took the United States off of the exchange for currency for gold. So it was the exchange standard that he took us off. But gold, I'm going to say something that J.P. Morgan said in 1929. J.P. Morgan said that gold is money and everything else is credit. So what is the importance of that statement? It pretty much says everything there, because what we're having with the decline of the dollar is a debt instrument. And right now, the rest of the world, the central banks of the world, are repositioning themselves with the real money of the world, what I like to call God's money, and that's the precious metal, and gold being one of the keystones of the precious metals. Now, with this happening, there are things that are transpiring every day now, and there were some things that I'm very concerned about that I wanted to share with you all, and I asked Dr. TANKARD if I could have a moment to speak to you all about it. If you're not familiar with the SWIFT code and SWIFT banking, let me give you a quick rundown of what that is. The SWIFT code in SWIFT banking is basically run by the United States, and it's a banking format that the United States has established in order to maintain the overall reserve currency of the United States, which means that every item of trade throughout the world, the U.S. dollar is used. And with that dollar being used, it gives a facade of strength to the dollar because it's based in confidence. Everyone believes that the dollar is strong because it has the military backing, it has the overall economic backing of the United States so that they can pay their debt. Now, the problem with that is that the SWIFT system is set up so that anytime that you transfer money throughout the world, if you transfer money via country to country, you have to go through the SWIFT banking system. And that code is ruled by the United States to maintain that they are paid in every transaction of foreign transactions for goods. Also for the petro status, a lot of you heard of the petro status. Petro status just means that every barrel of oil that's bought in the world has to use the dollar as the settlement for that trade. So all of the countries of the world, because of the reserve currency status, the SWIFT system, and because of the petro status, they have to accumulate the U.S. dollar. There are more dollars in the United States outside of the U.S. than there are inside of the U.S. because it makes sense, because in order for countries to run their economy, they have to have energy. And so they have to use the dollar to purchase the oil, the natural gas, or the forms of energy in order to maintain and run their economy. So the M2 money supply is even larger outside of the country. So right now, there are 5 things that I would like to bring to your attention, 6 things that are drastically threatening your standard of living. Regardless of who you are, if you're in this country, and if you have cash, you're paid in cash, you have a savings or any form of cash, U.S. currency, then this will affect you. Even if you don't, it still will affect you if you're here in the United States, because the standard of living that you have in the United States is based off the confidence of the U.S. dollar, and that is being lost every minute now. So the things that I would like to highlight to you all is that Russia and China are establishing their own SWIFT system. It's going to be mainly Russia, but it's going to be backed by China. By establishing this SWIFT system, if you notice, the prices of gasoline has been going down lately, but that is a facade of what's really going on. This is an economic warfare that the United States is in with the rest of the world in order to maintain the reserve currency status and the petro status. So they were trying to totally destabilize the Russian economy. Russia's debt is far less than the United States. When I say far less, they can almost pay their debt off. The United States mathematically is insolvent. They can never pay off the debt they owe. So the United States has started to use their power and influence to push down the pricing of natural gas and oil to hurt and to collapse the Russian economy. Well, what the Russians have done before this happened, they established the BRIC nations with Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, but it's not just those 5 countries. It's 105 countries that are involved in the BRIC nation. And they all are moving to not using the U.S. dollar for their trade, because the only people that gain from the trade of the U.S. dollar is the U.S. And everyone else is hindered, and their economy is hamstrung and beholden to the U.S. Economy. So Russia is establishing a SWIFT system, and they said that it will take within the next 6 months. They released this earlier in mid-last month, around the 20th, that in 6 months they will establish the SWIFT system. By them doing that, the rest of the world can now have some competition to the U.S. dollar for trade of reserve currency, for trade of goods, for rice, beans, clothing, rubber, cars, any trade. They can have a competitor. And as everyone knows, anytime there's competition, the consumer is at advantage and the producer is at a disadvantage. The United States doesn't like that, because now that will cut them at the knees in the source of their power throughout the world. Russia said they will take 6 months for that to happen. Well, you can expect that the United States will not allow that to happen, even to the means of going to war. And I'm going to give you some examples of how they've gone to war with countries who have tried to get away from using the dollar. They did that to Iran. They're doing this with Iraq. They did it to Libya. The reason why they invaded Libya, because Gaddafi wanted to go to a gold-backed dinar, so they had to get rid of him and not use the dollar. He didn't want to use the dollar any longer. And they did it to Saddam Hussein, who said that he wanted to trade his oil for the euro, which would have given him a better return, so they invaded him right away. So now, everything that you see in the Ukraine is because of Russia and China are now forming their own financial World Bank to compete with the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and the SWIFT system. So with this happening, you can expect some major financial problems coming, some further cyber attacks, and this is why you have to become your own, central bank. And the best way to become your own sovereign central bank is by purchasing gold and all of the other precious metals, because that's the only money that this earth has. Everything else is a debt-based instrument. And your mortgage, your 401k plan, the dollars that you have in your bank account, all those are debt instruments that are tied to the dollar. And once this SWIFT system is put into place, that will cause all of your exposure to that to actually go into default, because confidence will be lost throughout the world in the dollar. Because why would they use the dollar when they can use something that has more confidence and also is not manipulated against them? And what they're going to move to is they're going to go back to a gold standard, and they're going to back a portion of their SWIFT system will be backed by gold, and that will give great confidence to the market. And everyone else, just as you are purchasing gold through K-bars, you're purchasing gold. The rest of the world is purchasing gold because you're losing confidence in the dollar. The dollar is just a debt instrument. All debt is either paid off or defaulted. So that is a major deal that's coming down, and you will see the ramifications of it throughout the economic market here in the United States. Also, George Soros has sold all of his banking stocks in Citibank, in all of the banking, and he has pushed and he's positioned himself with gold. That's another sign. Another major sign is that the New York Federal Reserve is allowing countries to repatriate their gold. And they're allowing these countries to repatriate their gold for two reasons. One, because all of the bankers already have their gold. And I'm going to tell you how the bankers got the lion's share of their gold. If you remember the past 3 years, you've seen a lot of cash for gold places popping up everywhere throughout this country. That is what I call soft mining. What they did was they tricked the American public into surrendering their true money for defaulting currency. And that defaulting currency was the dollar. They said cash for gold. Give us your gold and we'll give you cash. What they did with that gold that you gave, that the people, not you, but the people gave them, was they resmelted it, and they were able to build their overall gold holdings, because they knew that the dollar was going to go into default. And what they did was they took the value from every person in this country, they stole their gold and gave them something that had no value, and they took something of value. So when you were able to see all of the cash for gold, that was soft mining. They knew that they were going to be able to get gold, resmelt it, enhanced the purity of it by combining it all, and now they were able to fill their coffers with gold. Also,
Wow. Yeah, keep going. Go ahead.
If anyone has any questions at any time, you definitely can just chime in, because I want to make sure you understand why this is happening. But what we have to do is that we have to do what the rest of the world and all the sovereign wealth funds and all the sovereign countries are doing, is using your cash to save in real money, in gold. Continue your streams of income and increase your revenue streams of income to take the cash in and trade it off immediately after paying your liabilities and saving in gold, silver, platinum, palladium, and rhodium, the precious metals. You never save in cash because cash is a debt instrument. Read the dollar bill. It tells you that on the dollar bill. All debt will either be paid off or defaulted on. Gold has been around for over 5,000 years. It has been used as currency. As money. And it will always be used as money. You have to become your own. Yes.
You have to become your own bank. This is so good. Helen Brown, E-L-L-E-N Brown. You guys can YouTube her. Another financial expert out there. She was on CNBC. It was so good. And she was saying that what's going to be coming is those people that have saved all this money, whether it's in the stock market or traditional savings, they're going to look up and their money's going to be wiped out. Just like in 07 and 08. I mean, you think about it, wealth is never destroyed. So people who have billions of dollars in the stock market and lost, millions, or even a person who had $500,000 in the market and all this, we lost $300,000, you only have a $200,000 balance. That money really wasn't lost. It's never destroyed. You see what I'm saying? It was simply transferred. And so this is why it's important that you're not sitting on thousands and thousands of dollars. Somebody asked me this. Listen, don't I need to have liquid cash? I'm all for that. But what we're saying, and I think what you're trying to say and what I'm saying, is I would not have large amounts of liquid cash sitting around because it's not worth anything. You're going to have to keep, of course, maybe enough to live on 6 months. I'm not saying I don't want to. Some people go so extreme. They're like, I got rid of, all I had was $100,000 and I converted it all to gold. I didn't mean that. I mean maybe take $80,000. Like what percentage? Let's talk percentages because I know a lot of these people on the call are very exact. So if they have $100,000 sitting in the account, based on what you know, and Jim, you can chime in here too, what amount would you say they should convert to gold immediately?
Great question. This is what I would say. Whatever you don't want to lose in cash, you get rid of. And let me tell you why I'm saying that. Because the beta testing for bail-ins has already happened, and we've seen the examples of bank bail-ins throughout the world already. It happened in Cyprus, the Volcker rule, Paul Volcker. You have to research Paul Volcker, see who he was. He was the Secretary of Treasurer. At one time, Paul Volcker rule says that there will no longer be any government or taxpayer bailouts for corporations or the banks. But what they didn't tell you is that they have instituted bail-ins, basically meaning where the banks, whenever you deposit money into the bank, that money is no longer yours. You are an unsecured investor now, meaning that the bank can settle their losses and their liabilities with your money, your cash, and not pay you back. It's not FDIC insured. No, because they're trying.
Go ahead. They're trying to say, finish that last piece. They're trying to what?
Because the FDIC insurance comes into effect, they don't have to pay you for 99 years on FDIC. FDIC is broke, but FDIC is if the bank goes under. The first thing that the bank has to do before the bank goes under is that it has to go into its customers' accounts to make sure that they pay their secured investors. And that's going to be every single person that has a checking, savings, or any money that they deposited into the bank.
Okay, so let me make sure I'm clear. The FDIC is going to make sure that they pay their secured investors first. But now, doesn't that leave, technically, they only insure up to, I think, $250,000. Anything else, and that's not, I don't even think that's real. So let's just say the average guy just got $10,000 in the bank. Isn't his $10,000 at risk of also being taken out to you, or are you saying they'll pay that average guy, or isn't his $10,000 at risk?
Yes, the $10,000 is at risk. The best way that I can put it is this: whatever you don't want to lose, you don't hold in cash. So I use my cash to settle my liabilities, to pay the debt that I have, to make my purchases of the things that I need, but I do not save in cash because it's a debt instrument that is going to go into default. It already has gone into default. So if you have $10,000 in your bank account, just like what happened in Cyprus, they told the people that had $10,000 and less that they won't be affected, and it would only take 1 week for the banking problem to resolve itself in Cyprus. 1 year later, it wasn't solved, and they took everyone's money that had money in the bank itself. It didn't matter how much it wasn't a matter of the amount that you had. It just was a matter that you had a bank account with cash inside that account. They took those accounts, and they would only allow them to take out an equivalent to $80 or $120 in our currency today. And that was something that you had to do every day. So the people that were in Cyprus, I'm sorry, go ahead, Doc.
No, I just want to say, just to stay on point, when you guys YouTube Ellen Brown, she's saying the exact same thing. I also want to say this, that Mike Maloney there's a YouTube video out there, and I'll have to try to figure out which one it is. He has so many out there, but there was one where he was also being interviewed by, I think it was Fox News or CNBC. He also has taken all of his money out of the stock market. So I think you're right. The other gentleman you just named, George, his name again, George Soros.
George Soros.
Yeah. So he's moved all his money out. Mike Maloney, he's moved all his money out. Robert Kiyosaki said he's moved all his money out. And they said that their retirement is precious metals and oil. So I think that that's very, very important to know that. Like you said, those are signs when you start seeing major players like that, major financial players, making moves like that. Not only that, as I was explaining this young lady, Jackie, I was talking to earlier on the freeway out of New York, and I'm glad she's on the call, that you don't look at what's happening before you right now. You don't look at that. I mean, you can pay attention to the fact that gas is $1, $80, 80 cents or whatever, but really pay attention to what's going on in the nation, because everything happens on an international level. Then by the time the average guy finds out it's happened, he's just an observer complaining. And so if you do this, you safeguard yourself. It doesn't matter if a Democrat gets back in office, if a Republican gets back in office, you will put yourself in a position that when this financial collapse happens, you actually become wealthier, and you'll do what the wealthy's been doing for many years. During recessions, they go into acquisition mode. Am I not right?
Yes, you are absolutely right. That's a part of becoming your own central bank. It's because you will have leverage. The rest of the world, you have to remember, right now there's a transfer, just like Dr. Tinker said, there's a transfer. Wealth is never destroyed, it's transferred. The wealth has been transferred out of the United States and has gone west. It has gone to the Eurasian, Russia is going to China, because everything is going to, George Soros said at Bretton Woods too, that the rest of the world is going to, in a global economic reset, and Christine Lagarde also said this, and she's the chief, the IMF head, said that the world is going to an asset-based economy. an asset base. If you don't have any assets, then you will not have any leverage. So you can go into acquisition because you have the leverage of having the international money that's recognized, has been recognized for over 5,000 years, and it will have the purchasing power so that you can buy when the rest of your country is now in a they're going to go into liquidation. And in that liquidation phase, right now is the accumulation phase, where you want to accumulate the confidence and the assets that you can buy during the liquidation phase. So you may know people that are millionaires right now, but if they do not have any precious metals, they will not be able to hold on to the other assets that they have, because they will be running into the market trying to buy gold, and the supply and demand ratio and the supply and demand aspect will take over the market. And once that happens, the golden rule will kick into effect. Those that have the gold make the rules.
Wow, that is so strong. My gosh. I mean, phenomenal information.